for starting your week with us. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-yoon in Seoul. We have a lot lined up for you today, so let's get started with the day's highlights. Korea's finance minister nominee is confident that Korea can reach its growth target this year, despite the country's continued struggle in the export sector. Food and clothes that remind us of the good old days are getting more popular these days, thanks to the rise of retro here in Korea. We have these stories and more coming right up. Finance Minister nominee Yoo Il-ho said during his confirmation hearing today that Korea will see growth in the 3% range this year, even without the help of a government stimulus package. Now, to counter the possible risks to the economy, he pledged to front-load the state budget in the first quarter. Our Hang Ji-hye starts us off.
Korea will be able to reach its 3.1% growth target this year without drawing up a supplementary budget. That's what Finance Minister nominee Yoo Il-ho said during his confirmation hearing on Monday. But as the economy continues to face lingering uncertainties at home and abroad, like the slowing Chinese economy and the U.S. Federal Reserve's rate hike, Yoo said he will take all possible measures to prop up the recovery momentum seen in the second half of last year.
I will do my best to further boost the economy and fight against risks through measures like front-loading the state budget in the first quarter this year.
Yoo added that structural reforms in 4 sectors, including labor, education, finance, and the public, are critical to the government's ability to reach its growth target, and he pledged to pour his efforts into persuading the main opposition party to pass a series of pending economy-related bills. Despite Yoo's rosy growth projections, skepticism remains over Korea's ability to hit the 3% target, with major foreign investment banks predicting an expansion of 2.6% on average. On top of that, the country saw its traditional growth engine exports drop every month last year. With that, experts say Korea is at a crossroads between falling into a cycle of Japan-style deflation and moving closer to adding itself to the list of advanced economies. But because nominee Yoo's policies are built around those of current Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan, pundits question whether Yoo will show the same sort of leadership Choi has exhibited during his term. Hwang Ji-hye, Business Daily.
Meanwhile, the average daily trading volume in Korea's bond market hit a record high in 2015 due to the ongoing global uncertainties. According to the Korea Exchange, the daily turnover of bonds averaged nearly $6 billion last year, up almost 27% from a year earlier. The daily trading volume had been on a steady rise for the past several years, except in 2013. Now, experts say investors fled to the relatively safety of bonds due to changes in interest rates and market uncertainties. Treasuries accounted for nearly 96% of the total bonds traded in the market, with the benchmark 5-year government bonds taking up the largest share of over 50%. And for more on last week and this week's stock market action, we have economics reporter Choi Jin-seok from SBS CNBC joining us on the phone today. Hello, Jin-seok.
Hello, Ji-yoon.
So it was quite a crazy week last week in the global financial market. Let's get an overview of how the Korean stock market closed last week.
Yes, stock markets across the world closed sharply lower, and U.S. equity indices fell by around 7%, marking the worst opening week in history. European stocks suffered their worst week since August 2011 as well. China's yuan depreciation once again spurred concerns that the world's second-largest economy is facing a sharp slowdown. Other negative factors, such as China's collapsing stock market, the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran, North Korea's claimed hydrogen bomb test, and the continuous decline in oil prices all dragged the global equity markets down. Korea was no exception, and the Kospi finished the week with a 2.9% plunge. But Korea's stock market rebounded on Friday, surging by 0.7%. The Kospi fell below its 1890 level once during the session, but bounced back with the opening of the Chinese market.
All right, so how did the Korean stock market do on the first day of this week then?
Unfortunately, the Korean stock market failed to maintain the upward momentum it had on Friday. Both the Kospi and the Kosdaq fell by more than 1% today. The U.S. stock market fell sharply last Friday, and that negative sentiment reverberated through the Korean market as well. A robust December jobs report in the U.S. boosted the sentiment, lifting the S&P 500 by 0.8% in the early hours of trading. However, the indices fell by 1% in the late session due to falling oil prices. Fears of a global market sell-off prompt foreign investors in Korea to also sell their shares. Foreigners dumped more than 400 billion Korean won or $330 million worth of stock today. The sell-off in the Chinese market didn't help the domestic market either. The Shanghai Composite Index plummeted more than 4% during the session, dragging down Asian equity markets as a whole.
And as we saw today, China seems to be the main focus of global markets this week as well.
That's right. The Chinese stock market finished down 10% last week, marking its worst performance since the week ending August 21st. China's sharp depreciation of the yuan, the country's sluggish economic indicators, and the stock market collapse all reminded us of what happened last August. The Chinese government first depreciated its own currency on August 11th. The Caixin Manufacturing Index fell to a 6.5-year low on August 21st, and as a result, the Shanghai Composite has fallen by more than 26% within just 6 sessions. The Dow Industrial Average in the U.S. exhibited extreme volatility on August 24th, falling more than 1,000 points during the session. That scenario is what we are fearing the most right now. For this week, market participants will keep a close eye on China's trade data released on Wednesday. Experts expect another trade surplus, but worry that the country's exports will exhibit weakness after declining by 6.8% year-on-year in November. If China's economic data disappoints global markets once again, the Korean market will not be able to avoid any jitters from the disappointment. Aside from that, the movements in the Chinese market will be in the spotlight as well.
And the fourth quarter earnings season in the U.S. will kick off this week too, right?
That's right. Aluminum company Alcoa's earnings report on Monday local time will officially kick off the Q4 earnings season. Big banks including JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup will report this week as well. The overall sentiment, though, is quite gloomy. Market research firm FactSet expects the profits of S&P 500 companies will decline by 5.3%, close to marking the first 3 consecutive earnings declines in 7 years. Energy and materials companies are also expected to report weak earnings. On the other hand, communications, financials, and healthcare are some of the sectors that are estimated to report relatively good results. The earnings season in Korea already kicked off last week with Samsung Electronics' fourth quarter report. The country's largest conglomerate reported an operating income of 6.1 trillion won last quarter, failing to beat market expectations. The overall sentiment for domestic companies' earnings is quite gloomy as well. However, some experts expect this earnings season has the potential to be a positive catalyst because it can move markets' attention from China to corporate fundamentals. This has been Choi Jin-seok from SBS CNBC.
Hyundai Motors' high-end Genesis sedan has been winning over more drivers in the United States. The Korean automaker says it sold almost 25,000 units of its second-generation Genesis in the U.S. in 2015. That's a 30% jump from the year before. Genesis was the third best-selling mid-sized model with a market share of more than 10% and coming in behind the Mercedes-Benz E-Class and BMW 5 Series. Since its U.S. release in 2010, the Genesis has ranked among the top 10 best-selling luxury models, maintaining a market share of around 7%. But of course, Genesis has since branched off to become its own sub-brand, due to be unveiled to a global audience at the Detroit Auto Show this week. It'll showcase some smart technology that's increasingly familiar in today's newest connected cars. Our Eunice Kim takes us on a tour.
Competition for state-of-the-art technology is raging in the auto market. The recently released Genesis EQ900 was chock full of it. Perhaps the most noticeable innovation was a homegrown highway driver assist system that allows for partially autonomous driving. Its smart cruise control recognizes speed limits, and its navigation system watches for risk areas. The system incorporates lane guidance and protects the driver from collisions by automatically keeping a distance from the car ahead. The hands-free highway driving, parent company Hyundai says, will not only dramatically reduce driver fatigue, but will also prevent car accidents.
With our highway driver assist system, we're offering technology that meets or exceeds what our competitors offer.
And it's not only Hyundai's Genesis. At last year's Seoul Motor Show, sister company Kia Motor showcased self-parking technology, in line with its plans to have a fully autonomous car by 2030. In 2014, Renault's Samsung implemented a smart mirroring system that uses Wi-Fi to connect a mobile device to the car's infotainment system, a first for a Korean carmaker. GM Korea and Nissan unveiled Spark and Maxima models that both incorporate a forward vehicle collision warning system, while BMW highlighted its gesture control feature for infotainment in its new 7 Series, all signs of a high-tech competition heading to infinity and beyond. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
One of the hottest words last year that influenced trends in food, clothing, and other daily goods was retro. Not only did the theme dominate various TV shows and cultural products, it even led to a boost in sales at stores. And the return to the past looks like it's here to stay, at least for now. Our Lee Joo-young tells us more.
In the hallways of a local department store in Seoul, it's as if you've gone back in time to the boom years of the 1980s. It's a theme that's been in demand for a few years already, but last year, retailers say consumers yearning for the past, fueled by a popular TV series, helped sales climb even more.
Turntables were the most popular, with sales going up 38% on month. Also, popular snacks from the 80s and 90s like 쫀득이 and 쫄쫄이 were in high demand as well.
Food and beverage companies like Bingre and Lotte Confectionery both saw sales surge by 10% in December on year, thanks to product exposure in the TV drama. One of the country's largest beer producers, Haitechino, also had to pump out an additional 15,000 cans of its Crown beer, which was pulled out of production in 1993. This is after the first batch of 240,000 limited edition lagers sold out in 2 weeks. Experts say economic uncertainties both in and outside of the country are fueling a desire to return to simpler times when interest rates were over 10% and the country grew at breakneck speed of 12%.
The pressure of living under heated competition, the fact that things change so quickly, and the feeling of living in a time of transition all make people more reminiscent of the past, and this is reflected in cultural products.
Experts say the country's retro fad will most likely continue well into the new year, as goods that bring back happy memories or highly effective marketing strategies that offer people some peace of mind during slower economic times. Lee Joo-young, Business Daily.
How much do Koreans eat, drink, and sleep? A new survey shows that on the whole, Koreans love their coffee, their food, and also a good sit-down. Our Son Jung-in has the details.
Newly released statistics from the Health Ministry and the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show Korean adults drink nearly 2 cups of coffee a day. According to a survey on 3,400 Koreans aged between 19 and 64, an adult drinks 12 cups of coffee a week on average, or 1.7 cups every single day. The rate is similar to how often Koreans eat rice. That figure comes to 2.4 times a day. The survey also showed that around a third of adults were overweight, but 2/3 of them were attempting to lose a few kilos. The poll found that 32% of adult Koreans were above the optimal weight, meaning their BMI measured by dividing a person's weight by the square of his or her height in meters was 25 or higher. 64% of them have tried to lose weight. The data also found that obesity was more prevalent among old and low-income Koreans. The survey also found that 1 in 3 Koreans did not eat dinner with their family. Only 65% of respondents said they had dinner with their loved ones. This figure has been on a downward trend since 2005 when it stood at 76%. The latest statistics also found Koreans spend around 7.5 hours a day sat down and get nearly 7 hours sleep a night. On a worrying note, 1 in 7 drivers confessed to driving under the influence more than once in a year. 손정인, Business Daily.
And that wraps it up for today. But we'll be back tomorrow at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. So don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.